We're the ones who failed to save those children. We're the ones they've been calling to over and over again.
This place wants us scared. It wants us fighting each other instead of fighting back.
Something happened at the end of Season 4 that I don't think the fandom has fully processed yet. They tore the faraway tree out of the ground, and I don't think that was just a desperate move to save a life. I think it was the single worst decision anyone has ever made on this show, and I think it's about to cost them everything. Because if that tree really was the thing holding Fromville together, then Season 5 isn't just the endgame. It's the countdown, and I don't think everybody is walking away from this one. Let's talk about why this final season is shaping up to be a lot darker than people are expecting. For 4 seasons, From has teased us with the idea that there's a way out. A way to save the children. A way to finally beat the man in yellow and go home. And every single time, the show has pulled the rug out from under us. Every time our characters get close to an answer, something worse happens. Every time they think they've found a way to protect themselves, Fromville finds a new way to punish them. So going into the 5th and final season, I don't think we should expect a clean win. I think we should expect the show to do what it's always done, just this time with the stakes turned all the way up. Let's start with the biggest domino of them all, the removal of the faraway tree. Up until this point, we've only ever seen the children's hope tied to these trees in a vague, symbolic way. But Season 4 made it a lot more literal. That tree wasn't just a landmark. It felt like it was alive, like it was holding something together, almost like it was the beating heart of Fromville itself. And they ripped it straight out of the ground to get to the bones underneath. Think about that for a second. They tore out the one thing that might have been keeping this whole nightmare stable, just to survive one more night. That's not a victory. That's a countdown timer starting. Here's where it gets darker. I don't think that tree was some random tree that happened to grow near the caves. I think Fromville was built on ritual from the very beginning, and I think that tree was the result of it. Picture generations of children trapped in this place, pouring every bit of hope they had left into the ground beneath them. Over time, that hope had to go somewhere. And what if it became the tree? What if the tree wasn't just a symbol of hope, but literally made of it, grown out of it, kept alive by it? If that's true, then ripping it out wasn't just cruel. It was catastrophic. It's the equivalent of ripping the foundation out from under a house that's already been standing on shaky ground for decades. And if there really are 7 faraway trees scattered around this world, one for each child taken, then I don't think this ends with just one tree dying. I think this is the first in a chain reaction. Picture it like a countdown made of trees instead of numbers. One falls and the ground gets a little more unstable. Another falls and the nightmares get a little worse. And by the time the last one goes, Fromville itself might not be able to hold together anymore. That's not a fun mystery box twist. That's a slow, creeping horror, the kind that builds pressure with every episode instead of releasing it. And that's exactly the kind of dread I expect Season 5 to lean into. So if that's the shape of things to come, what does that actually mean for Jade and Tabitha? It means they're not just racing against the man in yellow anymore. They're racing against a clock they can't see, one that started the moment that tree came out of the ground. Every episode, the pressure gets worse. Every choice they make now might be pulling them closer to the moment the whole place collapses in on itself. And that changes the entire tone of this final season. This isn't just about solving the mystery anymore. It's about surviving long enough to use the answer once they find it. Now here's a theory that I think deserves way more attention than it's gotten. And it comes from something one of our own viewers brought up during a live stream. What if the original Tabitha wasn't just some innocent woman caught up in all of this? What if she was a witch? Stick with me here because this theory goes somewhere pretty unsettling. We've spent years assuming that the man in yellow showed up out of nowhere and offered the original settlers a deal, that he was the one who came to them. But what if it was the other way around? What if the original parents summoned him? What if it was their idea from the start, and the original Tabitha was the one who knew how to call something like that into their world in the first place? If that's true, it changes everything we thought we knew about who the real villains of this story are. It means the people we've been mourning as victims might actually be the ones responsible for starting this entire nightmare. Maybe it wasn't greed. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe their settlement was dying, wiped out by disease or starvation, and they were willing to try anything to save what was left of their families. Or maybe it really was something darker, a want for power or eternity dressed up as survival. Either way, Imagine the horror of realizing, after it was too late, that the price for that deal wasn't just their own lives. It was every single family that would ever get pulled into this place after them, and that's where the reincarnation piece comes in. What if the original Tabitha didn't just die when this all went wrong? What if, in one last desperate act, she cast something that guaranteed her own soul? And maybe Jade's too would keep coming back, life after life, generation after generation, each time given another shot at fixing the mistake she made. That would explain why Jade and Tabitha keep appearing at the center of every major turning point on this show. It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's a debt being paid over and over again until someone finally gets it right. But here's the part that makes this theory hit even harder. If the original Tabitha was the one who summoned the man in yellow, then this Tabitha might be the only person alive who actually has the power to send him back. Reverse the ritual, undo what was done, and maybe, just maybe, the door closes on him for good. But rituals like this rarely come free. I don't think Jade and Tabitha walk away from that kind of ending unscathed. I think this is the theory where the show finally lets some of its characters win, but only by giving up everything to do it. Julie and Ethan becoming orphans in the process. The children saved. The town emptied out. A door opened for the survivors to finally go home. And Jade and Tabitha themselves left behind in the process. The final price paid to close the loop that started centuries ago. Now let's talk about the ending nobody wants to think about, but the one this show has honestly been building toward the entire time. What if the man in yellow wins? I know that sounds bleak, but hear me out because the pieces are already on the board. Heading into this final season, Sophia didn't just cause chaos. She stole every single talisman from the town. That's not a small setback. That's the town's entire defense system gone in one move. Every single family in Fromville just lost the one thing standing between them and whatever comes out of those woods at night. And knowing this show, that's not going to get fixed quickly or quietly. Think about what happens to people when they're scared and desperate and stripped of their only protection. They don't come together. They turn on each other. We've seen it happen before on a smaller scale, and I think Season 5 is going to push that instinct to its absolute breaking point. Picture the town splitting into factions. Picture people hoarding whatever protection they can find, refusing to share, accusing each other of being the reason things are falling apart. And in the middle of all that panic and paranoia, I can absolutely see the man in yellow taking full advantage. Not through some big dramatic confrontation, but by picking people off quietly, one by one, while they're too busy fighting each other to notice what's actually hunting them. And if that happens, if the town truly falls apart from the inside while the real threat closes in from the outside, I don't think this ends with everyone making it out. I think there's a real possibility we watch Fromville get wiped out almost entirely. Maybe with Ethan being the one exception, the one person the show has spent years quietly setting up as something more than just another victim. If the show ever wanted to give us its darkest possible ending, this is exactly how it would do it. Not with one big loss, but a slow, grinding collapse where hope runs out faster than answers ever show up. I don't personally think the writers take it that far. I think there's still a difference between a show being willing to go dark and a show being willing to erase everything it built. But I do think we're heading somewhere painful. My gut feeling is that the real ending sits somewhere between total tragedy and a clean, happy ending. Some of our characters make it out. The children might actually be saved. But I don't think it comes cheap. I think whoever survives this is going to carry the cost of it for the rest of their lives. And I think the show is going to make sure we feel every bit of that cost before the credits roll. Because if there's one thing 4 seasons of this show have taught us, it's that From does not hand out easy victories. Every answer creates 2 new questions. Every safe moment gets undone by the next episode. And the deeper we get into this story, the clearer it becomes that the real horror was never just the monsters in the woods. It's the slow realization that surviving this place was never going to look like winning. So as we head into the endgame, I think the real question isn't whether the man in yellow gets defeated. I think
the real question is, what's going to be left standing once he is? Will Fromville collapse the moment the last faraway tree dies? Will the original sin of the first Tabitha finally get undone at a cost none of us are ready for? Or will this town simply run out of time before anyone gets the chance to save it at all? Whatever answer the writers land on, one thing feels certain. The final season of From is not going to hand us a bow-tied ending. It's going to make us earn every single piece of closure we get, and I don't think all of our favorite characters are walking away from this to see it. So that's where I'm landing on this one. A slow collapse triggered by the removal of the faraway tree. A centuries-old debt finally coming due through Jade and Tabitha. And a town so weakened and divided that the man in yellow barely has to lift a finger to finish what he started. Put those three pieces together and you get an ending that isn't purely tragic, but isn't clean either. Bittersweet, painful, and probably going to leave a mark on anyone who's followed this story from the beginning. There's another piece of this puzzle that I don't think we can ignore, and that's Boyd. Out of everyone left standing in this town, Boyd has arguably paid the steepest price already, and yet he keeps getting back up. I think that matters going into the final season because a show doesn't keep testing a character that far unless it's building towards something. Either Boyd becomes the one who finally holds the line long enough for everyone else to get out, or he becomes proof that this town breaks everybody eventually, no matter how strong they are. And honestly, I could see this show going either way with him, which is exactly why I think his arc is going to hit harder than almost anyone else's by the time the credits roll. Then there's Victor, and I think his storyline is quietly one of the most important threads heading into Season 5. A kid who has grown up almost entirely inside Fromville, shaped by everything this place has thrown at him, sitting right at the edge of adulthood while the entire town falls apart around him. If the writers are smart, and I think they are, Victor becomes a mirror for what happens to a person who survives this place for years instead of days. He's proof that surviving Fromville doesn't mean coming out the same person who went in. And if the final season wants to show us what long-term survival actually costs, I think Victor is going to be front and center for that lesson. And let's not forget about the bus kids and how much unresolved tension is still sitting there. We've watched this group slowly split into different camps, different loyalties, different levels of trust in the adults trying to lead them. With the talismans gone and the town more vulnerable than ever, I think that fracture line is going to widen fast. Kids who feel abandoned or unprotected don't just quietly go along with whatever plan the adults come up with. I think we're going to see some of them take matters into their own hands, maybe recklessly, maybe out of desperation, and I think that's going to create even more chaos at a time when this town can least afford it. Now, let's circle back to something that's been bothering me since the finale, and that's the timing of everything. Why did the writers choose to end Season 4 with the tree coming out of the ground and the talismans getting stolen in the same stretch of episodes? I don't think that's a coincidence. I think the show is deliberately stacking every single safety net this town has ever had and pulling them all out at once, right before the final season begins. No hope tree, no talismans, no sense of protection left at all. That's not just bad luck. That feels like a setup, a very intentional one, designed to strip this town down to nothing so that whatever happens in Season 5 actually means something. Because here's the thing about from that I think gets overlooked sometimes. This show isn't really about monsters. It's about what people do when they're pushed past their limit. Every season, we've watched ordinary people get tested in ways most of us can't imagine. And every season, some of them rise to the occasion while others completely fall apart. I think Season 5 is going to be the ultimate version of that test. Strip away the hope. Strip away the protection. Strip away the illusion of safety this town has clung to for years. And then watch what's left of these people when there's nothing left to hide behind. That's why I keep coming back to the idea that this ending is going to hurt. Not because the show wants to be cruel for the sake of it, but because I think it's been building toward this kind of reckoning since episode 1. Every mystery we've been chasing, every theory we've debated, every character we've grown attached to, all of it has been leading toward one final stretch where the show finally has to answer for everything it's put these people through. And I don't think it's going to let anyone off easy, including us. So here's where I land. After putting all these pieces together, I think the faraway tree theory and the witch Tabitha theory aren't actually separate possibilities. I think they're two halves of the same ending. The tree's destruction sets the clock running, forcing Jade and Tabitha to move faster than they're ready to. And the truth about the original Tabitha gives them the one tool they need to actually end this, at a cost that's going to leave a permanent mark on whoever survives to see it. Meanwhile, the missing talismans and the crumbling trust inside the town create the perfect storm for the man in yellow to do the most damage he's ever done. Right when everyone is the most distracted and the most divided. Put all of that together, and you get a final season that doesn't just wrap up a mystery. It forces every character we've followed for years to finally answer the question the show has been asking since the very beginning. What are you willing to lose to make it out of this place? And I have a feeling that by the time Season 5 ends, we're going to know exactly how far some of these characters are willing to go, and exactly what it's going to cost them to get there. What do you think actually happens when this show finally ends? Do you think Fromville collapses completely? Do you think Jade and Tabitha manage to close this loop for good? Or do you think the man in yellow finally gets exactly what he's always wanted? Let me know where you land on this, because I have a feeling this final season is going to prove all of us wrong in ways we're not expecting.